Keep it growing and flowing. Just keep it going.
Welcome, family, friends, and even the newcomers. The video that I want to share with you guys today is actually about 4 or 5 years old. I decided to repost this video because of, number one, its importance. Number two, you will hear a prediction made in the video that has unfortunately played out again and again. Thirdly, this video was uploaded on my alternate channel, which is Cosmic Me, and in 4 years, or around about 4 years, that video has only gotten 1,200 views. So some of you guys may have already seen it, but many of you obviously have not, at least according to the view count. This subject matter is very important to me because as I've gone through life, I've seen, witnessed, and experienced very serious things as it relates to the church, specifically the quote-unquote black church. I don't want no one coming in here leaving comments, oh, white people do it too. I'm not talking about white people, and I'm not talking about their particular circles. I have not lived that experience. And even still, there has been much attention and focus brought to the abuse that has been going on in those circles. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why I decided to do this video in the very first place is that there are still many quote-unquote black people who think that this is just a white man's thing, something that happens only in the Catholic Church and in those circles. And I'm here to tell you, that's a bold-faced lie. And I'm not going to be one to sit here and be passive and support lies and deception. If you're going to call one out, you're going to call them all out. There's foulness and debauchery and unspeakable things going on in every single major institution on the globe. But what makes these circles the most dangerous and the most important to work on recompense is that this is where many people are going to get their spiritual sustenance from. Now, I'm going to allow this video to play in its entirety, and I'm going to be right back to add to what I wanted to say in the original posting, but must add now. I'll be right back. Hey, what's up, everybody? I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this video, and I'm just going to be honest. Whatever comes out will be. I'm not going to filter or tippy-toe around anything that I say in this video. More of us need to come forth and expose those who use their position of influence, power to abuse, manipulate, and deceive. I saw this time after time after time when I was a little boy coming up. There were times when I would bring light to it or talk about it. But it was very clear to me at an early age that there are people out there who don't want to accept and deal with the reality that is right before their eyes, because the delusion and the illusion feels better. It feels more comfortable. But I'm not that guy. I've never been that guy. One of the reasons why pimps, sexual abusers, and these guys who are in powerful, influential positions do what they do is because their flock and people around them remain passive and silent, and it indirectly emboldens them and protect them. Now, years ago on my spiritual channel, I talked about an experience that I had. I was right out of high school. I was about 19 years old, not long out of high school. And it was my first full-time job, actually. I had jobs before, but they were like seasonal or temporary. But this was a full-time, year-round job. And for me coming out of high school, getting a job was the thing that I was pressured most to do. And it was really honestly what I really wanted to do. I wasn't interested in going to college or going to any kind of, what they call that, trade school or anything at that time. I did take some classes for office automations, but for the most part, I just wanted to get out there and make my own money. So at about 19 years old, I applied for a job at the Council of Churches, the Greater Washington, D.C. chapter. And I got a call to be interviewed. I was really excited about it, and I told my mother about it. Now, mind you, at that time, I was somewhat, I wouldn't say sheltered, but I wasn't really out there like that. For the most part, I would just go to school or, travel in small circles. I'm talking about around that age when I was in my teens. I wasn't well-traveled or anything. So my mother volunteered to take me to my first major job interview. And I agreed. We go to the job interview, and the D.C. chapter of the Council of Churches of Greater Washington, this particular business was in a row house. They had the bedrooms turned into an office. The downstairs living room was one big office. They turned all the rooms into offices. They had a Xerox copier in the kitchen, and there was coffee in the kitchen where you could still eat meals, what have you. So I kind of liked the setup because it was kind of like you were at home, but it was a business as well. So I remember feeling like, the layout was pretty good or what have you. So my mother waited downstairs for me while I was upstairs in one of the office, which would be the equivalent of a bedroom, because again, this was a row house turned into a business. And I was being interviewed, which I didn't know at the time, by a highly respected and somewhat popular reverend. I'm not going to say his name. The man is since deceased, and I've forgiven him, but I'm just going to reference him as a reverend. So the interview was going well. The guys seemed pretty friendly. I was just really eager to just get a job. So I was smiling and being personable and kind and polite, taking the cues and tips that I had been given from other adults, how to properly sell yourself in a job interview. So the interview lasted for about 15 minutes. And at the end of this interview, the Reverend stood up. He came from behind his desk. He's standing right in front of me, and he extended his hand to me, and he said, "Congratulations, you have the job." And I immediately felt so happy, so proud. But at the same time, this man grabbed my hand and pulled me to him, and he grinded his erect dick against mine. This is years ago. This is way before the internet. And at that time, you really couldn't say anything negative about a pastor, whether it was true or not. My mother is waiting downstairs, and I'm eager to get this job, and this is happening to me. What do you do with that? A 19-year-old. I was shocked. I was really shocked. I just said, okay, thank you, and I kind of smiled it off. I was so confused, conflicted, shocked. And later on, that shock, confusion turned to sadness. It really did, because again, this is a pattern in my life. For those of you who are hearing me for the first time, this was not the first time that I experienced being sexually abused or sexually assaulted. So here I am experiencing for the first time a man who is supposed to lead, to teach, to guide, to protect, to heal, is doing one of the very things that many of them I have heard time and time again preach out against. And as I got older, I realized those who stand behind the pulpit, who are constantly and most fervently preaching against or about sexual immorality, 9 times out of 10 are doing the very thing. The job was offered to me. I took the job. I didn't tell anybody. Now, I know some of y'all out there, how y'all think, oh, if it was me, I would have did this, I would have done that. No, the hell you wouldn't. You were in a position like that, and you were basically still a child, just starting out with life. And on top of the fact, seeing sign after sign that you never talk negative or say anything bad about people like this. Now, in this day and age, it should be a lot easier to be forthcoming about these things. But even still in this day and age, with so many people who have come out and talk about being abused by men in positions as this, there are still people who will not come forward and tell of these things for the same reasons that I've already given. So I gotta tell you guys, I saw this kind of abuse happening in the church time and time again. Because again, remember, I had the gift of discernment. I could see a wolf in sheep's clothing. I don't care how well it's dressed, how well they speak. I can see them a mile away. And I remember there were times where I would warn people about this particular pastor, that particular deacon, that particular minister, what have you. And I would always get pushed back or attacked, or people trying to downplay what it is that I'm saying. And I kid you not, every single situation that I saw beforehand ended up coming out in the wash. Every single one of them. And so those who didn't believe me or was quick to shun or say I must be under the influence of Satan because they want to protect their perceived hero, or these men are like gods in the eyes of a lot of people. They want to protect them at all costs. So it's easier to attack the messenger or say things to make you just throw away anything that the messenger is bringing. So for a long time, I had a lot of anger and hostility towards so-called Christians. Because I'm looking like, how in the hell are y'all supposed to be saved and filled with the Holy Ghost, and God is telling you this and telling you that, but somehow this God is not telling you that the very person who's supposed to be your leader, your guider, your healer is perverted, as the very groups that they're constantly behind that pulpit singling out and demonizing. Y'all don't see this. Where's y'all discernment? This is the level of anger that I had towards these people for a long time. I remember when Eddie Long, that scandal broke, and I knew before any evidence or hint that he actually did this. Again, I can look at a picture, I can be in the presence of a person, and I can read the energy. And I kid you not, I have not been wrong yet, especially with stuff like that. I knew that man sexually abused those guys. And I remember the comments. My sister and I, we were talking about this. reading some of the comments when that story first broke, and who were the main ones in there attacking those boys and saying that they refused to believe that this pastor done these things. Christians. And people supposed to have discernment. How is it that y'all, again, never seem to see this stuff? It's probably more so that you may see it, but you don't want to see it. Because y'all would rather just keep drinking the Kool-Aid. And don't give me that BS that these are isolated instances. This is far more common than we want to admit. I know pastors who are like grandfathers, great-grandfathers, who have impregnated young girls from their church, in their church. Folk at the church basically hiding, protecting these people. These men who are having sex with other men and young men, but they'll get behind a pulpit and constantly demonize openly gay men and women who are in consenting relationships. They'll demonize and attack that. And again, as I said before, the common pattern is that those who constantly focus on and demonize the LGBT community usually are doing some mess as it relates to sexuality that is or will fall under the category of quote-unquote perversion. Look it up. There's story after story after story after story, and y'all ain't seen nothing yet. It's just going to escalate. And I warned of this time. Not only are we in the time of the great revealing, the great awakening, these people will be exposed, and most of them will expose themselves. But what are y'all going to do with these exposés? Y'all going to continue to find a reason to attack the victims? Y'all going to still preach that, oh, we all fall short of the glory of God? I get so sick of hearing that bullshit. Again, I always saw that as another angle to protect these predators or to give them a pass. But with the average person, y'all constantly attacking and condemning. I'm not with that. I'm not buying it. These guys need to be exposed. And y'all need to wake up and smell the coffee and stop pretending that this is not a common problem in our community. This is a problem with men who more than often put themselves into these positions of power and influence so that they can be predators and so that they can abuse without impunity. Some of these guys are a part of secret societies and secret orders where child molestation and sex magic ritual is a part of their religion, but they're not going to tell y'all that. And why is it that these guys can just put themselves in a position by going to ministry school or getting a degree, or they can just say, oh, God called on me, or because they're the son of a pastor, they can position themselves into a position, but y'all don't check the background of these men. The average person has to go through a thorough background check to get a basic job, a job with no influence, no real power. So how is it that these religious figures can get into these positions without the same kind of scrutiny, if not much, much more, given the level of power that they would have? Why y'all ain't pushing for that? Why is the standard so low? Someone can just say, oh, God called me, or God told me this, or told me that, and y'all eating it up and trusting it, and giving these guys your life savings, giving them all of your cash, your cookies, okay? Let's be real about it. Desperate women up in the church, married, in unhappy relationships, having sex, and having affairs with the pastors. He's going through the women in the church. He's going through the girls, the boys, and some of the men too. And again, don't tell me this is some isolated incident. It's not. And the silence, the passivity is what empowers and emboldens them to keep on doing it. So this video is the first of many more that I will be doing. We need to make the dialogue a normal part of our lives. We need to set a precedent that we are not going to accept this and tolerate this no more. There needs to be a series of protocols and standards set into place
before a person can assume such a position. We need to demand that or get out of the mess altogether. One thing that I've definitely learned being someone with the gift of discernment is that you have to be very, very careful who you open your mind and heart to, because as they're preaching one thing and doing another, your spirit is being corrupted. And here's how the poison spreads within the congregation. The mentality and the psyche of these men basically get embedded into the spirit of the soul of those who they give their heart and life to.
Now, we have all witnessed people who literally treat these lead clergymen, pastors, reverends, priests, whatever you want to call them. They literally treat them like gods. And just like the God of one's belief, people will go on the attack, losing all rhyme, logic, and reason, emotionally driven to protect something that feels the equivalent of a drug. Try telling a drug addict that they're a drug addict. Try telling an alcoholic that they're an alcoholic. It's the same kind of reaction. So the people are addicted to the spiritual rush and high, how these people make them feel. And they will defend it with their very life, failing to ultrastand that their spiritual and metaphysical state of wellness is at stake. Just like the food we eat to sustain the body, and like the information we receive in the mind to expand the mind, make us smarter, wiser, more adept, more in tune. What we take in the spirit is doing something just as well, just as much, just as effective. And if all we're consuming is food from one who is compromised, remember that word, compromised, deceitful, not only lying, but living a lie, what do you think that's going to do to those who are consuming energy from those people? And what do you suppose people like this is doing with your energy? Because the energy exchange goes both ways. Where am I going with this? Why hasn't there been an all-out movement in the black church to focus on the rampant abuse of power in those circles? Why do they go through such extent to hide and cover it up, shift it or shut it away as they continue to focus on things that's really not even relevant to the times that we're in? Constantly focusing on and talking about things that had allegedly happened thousands of years ago, written by men that no one has ever met, talked to, don't even know had actually existed, but ignore relevant and very damaging issues and matters by people that we see and interact with every day. Now, please tell me, what is the rhyme, logic, and reason behind this kind of thinking? There is rampant abuse of children going on in these circles. And just like I said in the video that I put up years ago, this is a part of their religion because their soul has been compromised. When these men talk about God, I'm sorry, they're not talking about the God that you have trusted or assumed they're talking about. A lot of y'all don't want to hear this, but when you look at what they put their energy into, there's a lot of harvesting of energy going on in those circles. Sex magic rituals are real. And they love the children because of the purity of the energy. They are heavily into what we would call backdoor play because it is a portal to the second mind. And they can create psychic cords to influence and control and feed through and from the host. And they do these things with males, females, children, and so on. It is a ritual. Again, a soul that is compromised with entities working through them is ciphering energy, and these people, in many cases, are being rewarded and well taken care of for their role. And the people sit in these congregations and in these circles defending these people, protecting these people, have no clue. But ignorance of what's going on does not protect us from the cause and effect of these actions, and being by proxy to these people, supporting them, we too will reap the harvest that these people create. When we're tithing with them, when we pray with them, when we co-create with them, we are merging our energies with it. So instead of living in denial and being in denial and going on the defense, which I'm sure there are going to be people listening to this doing the very thing that I'm talking about, you should be focusing on recompense, atoning for these things, and bringing more attention to it, exposing it. That disempowers the offenders because they thrive in secrecy. They thrive in the people protecting them. I'm not saying that they are not people who will make claims and accusations for ulterior reasons. I'm not saying that they are not people who will lie on people. Of course, we know this happens, but where there's smoke, there is fire. And I'm not the kind of person to sit and lie on anybody. That's just not my nature. And I am telling you, I have been seeing this for years, and I saw how pervasive it is. And because I wasn't going along with the program of looking the other way and the proverbial, oh, just go to Jesus and pray and God will save the day, Jesus will heal everything. Look at where we are now. If that were true, we would not have it so out of control. It was out of control back when I was younger, in my younger years. It's really out of control now. So that method clearly did not work. I'm telling you what's going to finally clean it up. Stop the freaking denial. These pastors, the righteous ones, y'all need to be preaching more about that and more against that, and stay out of consenting adult business. Get in the business of focusing on these victimizers out here. These people who are harming others, destroying the lives of others, enslaving others. We need to see and hear more of you guys doing that instead of all up in people's bedrooms. And I told you, more than often, come across a so-called quote-unquote man of God who stayed talking about people's bedroom behavior, consenting adults, chances are they are doing something in the same or worse, far worse, and they use these emotionally triggering subject matters and focal points as a distraction. I'm telling you what I know, and if y'all were to get honest and real with yourselves, you know it's the truth as well. All of it is 100% truth. Now, what are we going to do with this truth?